I was maybe 8 years old the first time I remember being ashamed of my body. It wasn't a dramatic, singularly catastrophic moment, but the slowly accumulating drip of 1,000 small corrections. You're too skinny. Don't be such a klutz. Your nose is huge. So many nose jokes, really. And I was born musical, not athletic, which young kids don't understand. Coach told me I was too slow, but then teachers asked why I couldn't sit still. And the particular cruelty of childhood is that it delivers its judgments without any sense of proportion or context. So, a comment made in 30 seconds on a Tuesday afternoon in 5th grade can take up residence in your psyche for the next 40 years. I suspect you have your own version of this story. Most of us arrived at adulthood already burdened with a substantial self-image debt, a running tab of all the ways our physical selves have been judged lacking by someone, somewhere, for reasons that often had more to do with them than us. But we humans also excel at negative self-talk and convincing ourselves that we're utterly unworthy, ugly, and ignorant. Too fat, too thin, too dark, too pale, too disabled, too feminine, too masculine, too slow, too loud, too much, not enough. The Empire has an unending cache of opinions about our bodies, and it's never been shy about enforcing them. The Empire's logic regarding bodies is ruthlessly simple. A body is valuable only if it produces. For the Empire, a body that works, earns, and optimizes itself for profit is a body worth investing in. A body that's sick, disabled, aging, or otherwise not meeting its productivity quota is a liability, a drain on resources, a burden on the system, and a problem to be managed at minimal cost. Unfortunately, mine is not a fringe view. Any decent internet or AI-assisted search will clearly reveal that this profit-driven heartlessness is the operating logic of the for-profit American healthcare system. And it is empire logic that millions of US citizens support because they do not realize their entire being has been commoditized. So, they willingly give themselves to the empire's insatiable lust. When your body is seen only as a productivity unit, healthcare isn't about your humanity, but a calculation of your systemic worth. Can this body be repaired cheaply enough to justify the expense? Is this person's ongoing productivity worth the investment? If not, the system has a really simple solution. It just prices you out. Medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in this country. We are the only country on the planet where that sentence is true, by the way. We have repeatedly and deliberately decided through policy, budget, and political will that medical debt is acceptable, that a body's access to care should be determined by its ability to pay for that care. That if you can't afford to live, well, then maybe you shouldn't. Those of us with a conscience can see that as an inhumane and ungodly healthcare policy. It is for-profit healthcare as an economic agenda rather than healthcare as a public service to keep people healthy. The belief that some bodies matter more than others didn't originate with insurance companies, though, and it is not, unfortunately, a distinctly contemporary issue. The idea that some bodies matter more than others was ingrained in people through religious traditions that taught them their bodies were the source of their problems. For thousands of years, religious leaders have emphasized that the flesh was fallen and that physical suffering was either a punishment or a means of purification. Spiritual life was about escaping, transcending, and being freed from the body, rather than seeing the body, everybody, as God in the flesh. And unfortunately, that tradition continues today. We have been at war with our bodies, our self-image, and who controls access to care for a very, very long time. In Mark chapter 5, we read about a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. She'd suffered a lot under many doctors and spent everything she had without getting any better. In fact, she'd gotten worse. But because she'd heard about Jesus, She came up behind him in the crowd and touched his clothes. She was thinking, if I can just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. And her bleeding stopped immediately, and she sensed in her body that her illness had been healed. At that very moment, Jesus recognized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? His disciples said to him, well, don't you see the crowd pressing against you? Yet you ask, who touched me? But Jesus looked around carefully to see who had done it. The woman, full of fear and trembling, came forward. Knowing what had happened to her, she fell down in front of Jesus and told him the whole truth. He responded, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace, healed from your disease. 12 years. 12 years of bleeding, which in the religious code of the day meant 12 years of ritual uncleanliness. She would have been considered untouchable and excluded from worship, from social gatherings, from the ordinary everyday human contact that keeps us sane and holds us in community. She constantly sought help. She'd gone to every doctor available, and she'd spent everything she had. She was broke, she was still bleeding, and she was alone, exiled, not because she'd done anything wrong, but simply because her body was misfiring. The empire looked at her and said, you are defective, unacceptable. Keep your distance. Yet, even after a lifetime of suffering, this hurting human doesn't march up to Jesus and make a formal request or any demands. She doesn't petition for an audience. She reaches out from behind, through a crowd, and brushes the hem of his robe. It's the gesture of someone who's been told by medicine, by religion, and through 12 years of social exile that she doesn't deserve to take up space at the front of anything. But Jesus stops. The whole procession halts. Jesus is on an urgent errand to a synagogue leader's house, and he stops. He turns around and asks who touched him. His disciples are baffled because, there are people shoving in from every direction, but Jesus knows something happened. He felt the tug on the God energy interconnecting all beings, and he does not move on until he finds out who is capable of that enlightened awareness. The woman, trembling, comes forward and tells him everything. Jesus' response is to call her daughter, not woman, not you there, not the carefully distanced language of someone addressing an unclean person from a safe place. Jesus calls this tormented human daughter. And with that one word, he pulls her firmly into the family. He names her as belonging before he says or does anything else. And then, without any fanfare, he simply declares, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. What many readers miss is that this isn't merely a physical cure. It's a reinstatement. She is given back everything the system had taken, her community, her standing, her right to be touched and to touch. But even dealing with persistent illness, it was never her that had been the problem. That dishonor falls to the system that exiled her for daring to fall sick. Like all of Jesus' so-called miracles, this story is not about Jesus performing magic. It's more radical than magic because it's his healthcare policy statement, and it is very much a theology of the body as perfectly divine in any form. For centuries, religious tradition has framed infirmity as a deficit, a broken state requiring miraculous correction. The healing stories get read as if the cure is the point, as if disabled people are primarily objects of pity waiting for intervention. Religion too often makes it seem as though the goal of every disabled body is to eventually become a non-disabled body. But that reading entirely misses what Jesus is teaching by example. Jesus never treated a sick or disabled person as less than fully human. He stopped for the hemorrhaging woman when the entire crowd was pressing in on him. He saw her when she was invisible to everyone else. The declaration at the end wasn't about curing her ailment, but about her belonging. Go in peace, even though you were never actually gone. The world that excluded you was wrong, not you. The kingdom doesn't ask whether your body is productive enough to deserve care. The kingdom is built on the premise that every body is sacred, not because of what it can do, but because of what it is, because of what we all are. Stardust. The first act of creation was radical, self-giving stars exploding themselves into existence so that everything else could come to be. Every atom in your body was forged in a stellar furnace and gifted away. That life-giving gift didn't come with conditions or a productivity requirement. The universe did not look at the stardust it was distributing and say, this portion's valid only if the resulting organism can work 40 hours a week and maintain continuous insurance coverage. Your body, this body, the one you have right now, in whatever condition it's in, is the universe's gift to itself. No market can price that, and no insurer can deny it. A couple of years ago, I wrote about the psychospiritual wound of being told your body is wrong. I was thinking about the ways we absorb other people's judgments about us on our physical selves. They tell us we're too much of this or not enough of that. We're outside of normal range. Well, those verdicts affect us deeply. I mean, I began this essay with a story about something that happened to me in 5th grade. Those experiences become the inner voice that wakes us up at 3 a.m. screaming, "You're not working hard enough." The empire has a very specific idea of what a body is worth, what it should look like, how it should perform, what it should be able to do, who gets to love, and how it gets to present itself to the world. This picture is literally from a show called Beautiful People. That's the empire, folks. And cruelly, we internalize all of these ideas so completely that we become our own enforcers. We do the empire's work for it inside our heads before anyone else gets a word in. The kingdom has no tolerance for any of that silly mindlessness, and it affirms that your body is not a project, not a problem to be fixed, and not a liability to be managed. Your body is simply you. And, as I've emphasized in this series from the very beginning, you are inherently, irreducibly, and unmarketably precious. Every body. That kind of seeing, really seeing someone the system has rendered invisible, is a powerful act of resistance. It's also a practice that begins inside of us, dismantling the empire judgments we've been carrying since 5th grade, so we can extend help outward to the systems we need to dismantle together. Kingdom theology is practicing our way toward becoming people who stop, see, and say, "Daughter, beloved, you are not invisible to me. Now let's get to work on the systems that made us feel invisible in the first place." Amen. Our question today is, the empire attacks bodies from 2 directions: systems that commodify and exclude, and judgments we've internalized as our own. Where do you feel that war? And where will or can you resist?